welcome on a very special guest, West Virginia head coach, previously and current, Rich Rodriguez. Thanks for coming on, Coach. Appreciate it.
Great to catch up with you.
Coach, West Virginia, obviously such a big part of your life, growing up there, playing there, coaching there, all of that stuff. But you said you hadn't been back in a long time. I think it's been 18 years since you coached there. Your exit, we'll call it controversial. At what point last year did this possibility of you wearing that flying WV become real? And what was that feeling like, kind of realizing that you could come back home?
I know it sounds like coach speak, but it really happened kind of quick because we were involved at Jack State. We had turned our season around. We were playing for a conference championship, and so we were hosting it. And at the same time, that's when this came open. And so I got a Zoom call interview, but I think there's like 20 of us. So it was like there was a whole lot of folks in the mix, and I was so wrapped up into our conference championship game and all that kind of stuff that I really wasn't thinking about it too much. And then we played well, won the game, and then right after the game, I think the next day or 2 days after that, I got another call about an in-person interview, and then that's when I started thinking, okay, this is going to be real. What do we want to do? If the possibility exists, and I got a lot of people reached out to me, friends of mine that heard rumors and all that kind of stuff. And then when Ren came down with a couple other administrators to my house in Jacksonville for an interview after the championship game, we had a great conversation, and I started thinking, well, this could be my last move, and boy, what a neat last move it's going to be.
What was that like? When you sort of realized, like, this is going to be real. I'm going to be back in Morgantown.
Well, the first thing I did think about, normally you don't think about your opening press conference. I'm thinking there's going to be some interesting questions and a lot of folks I hadn't seen in 20 years. My family, I hadn't seen my brothers that live up here. I hadn't seen them in 5 or 6 years, I think. Mm-hmm. And so, and there was a lot of people that were still working at West Virginia 17, 18 years ago that I got a chance to see on the opening press conference. And of course, my buddy Pat McAfee, did his show there, and they had all this fire, and it was a whole event kind of a deal. And I expected kind of maybe some little bit of, I don't say negativity, but maybe some brushback a little bit from some fans. And it started right away with that. Some guy went up and started yelling as soon as I started to speak, but we got him kind of taken care of, and it was just a great day. And I'm just so thrilled for the opportunity more than anything. I know that everybody talks about, well, I don't think I really got the job because of what we did the first time in West Virginia. I really think what we did in the last 3 years at Jack State is what propelled us to this opportunity, but I'm grateful for it.
So the last time you were here, it was the Big East, and Big East football is not around anymore. You guys are in the Big 12 now. What have you thought about all this realignment and kind of some rivalries that have been lost? Obviously, you guys and Pitt are not in the same conference anymore. As you kind of come back and see the landscape, what's been your feeling on the realignment and all that's impacted West Virginia?
There's a whole lot that's changed, right, in college sports, college football in particular. But even when I was here the first time, the Big East was different when I was first here, the first 3 or 4 years of West Virginia than it was afterwards, because Miami and Virginia Tech and all those schools were in the Big East, and then the Big East almost imploded. We were able to stick together, and I kind of had a foreshadow that, hey, something's probably going to happen then, because I remember having conversations with the Big East people when I was here that, hey, this is the movement and the realignment is probably not over, and we better make sure we're positioned as a university at West Virginia, to do something. And as it happened, it did. And then what's unique now about the Big 12, half the teams in the Big 12 I saw for 6 years when I was at Arizona. So I probably know the league better now than if it hadn't been switched.
Rich, we got to go back. As somebody who grew up on college football, your teams in the mid-2000s, legendary. Obviously, the Steve Slate and Pat White era sticks out. Noel Devine as well. What was it like coaching that team with that kind of speed and that kind of just lethal offense, to say nothing of the runaway beer truck himself?
Yeah. It kind of started, like my second year when Rasheed Marshall was our quarterback. Yeah. It was different back then. The zone read and the quarterback run game and all those things and the up tempo. Some other teams were doing it, but not a lot of them. And now everybody, even in the NFL, was doing some version of some of that quarterback run game stuff. So it was kind of neat to be one of the first ones to do that. And obviously, we had such great team speed, and not only on offense, but we had dudes that could run on defense too. And that was the biggest thing I think that stood out. We weren't always the biggest team, but we had a lot of guys that had a little bit of an edge about them, but they all could run, and very, very competitive guys. I think the part that was probably led to the most success is we had talented guys that were ultra competitive. I'm talking about whether it was practice in the game, it wasn't Pat White, Noel Devine, but Pac-Man Jones, and even Pat McAfee was as competitive as a specialist as you ever have. And so we had the right environment and culture, I think, that these guys flourished in.
Pat White on your staff, by the way. I'm a college football video game lifer. Are you aware of his legendary status as a video game talent? Has he brought this up at all?
No, I had heard that he was on like cheat mode or something. When you had Pat White and Steve Slayton, it was hard to beat those guys on the video game. I never seen him play it, but it is neat to have Pat's on the staff and Noel Devine's on the staff and Rashid is on the staff. So I'm fortunate to have those guys around me.
So one of your biggest wins back then was the Sugar Bowl against Georgia to cap the 2005 season. I actually went back and watched the highlights the other day. You guys jump out to a 28-0 lead. Like, you just blitz in this Georgia team that everybody thought was going to win. What do you remember about that game and that statement you guys made? And then 2 minutes left, you call a fake punt to clinch the game. What do you remember about that game, that lead, and then that decision at the end?
Well, first up, leading up to the game, it was the SEC champions and us and everybody. The narrative was that the Big East is not any good and the SEC is all this and that. And I remember going down there, and I moved the team. We initially were going to stay right downtown in a hotel in Atlanta because the game got moved because of the flood in New Orleans. So we were playing basically a home game for Georgia. Well, our hotel was one of those atrium type of hotels, and it was just way, way too loud and too noisy. And I said, this is going to help us concentrate. So we moved the team about 40 minutes away, kind of in the country a little bit. And I can remember we had 3 straight practices where there was not one missed assignment. It was kind of eerie. It was like all these kids were freshmen. Pat was a freshman. Stevie Slayton was a freshman. And they were so dialed in. I'm thinking, we might be a little bit better than they think. And then when the game started, and we started off so fast, I think we were a little bit faster than I think they expected us to be. And then I think after we got up 28-0, it kind of pissed them off, and they came back. But on the fake punt, it was funny because we had been working it really all year on it. We had a certain kind of punt team that if they give us a certain look, the fake would be there. Well, early in the game, when we punted, they gave us that look. And so I had it kind of in my memory. So it was 2 minutes ago in the game. We weren't stopping them anyway. They were coming back. We were in that near midfield. So I had my guy, the coach that was in the box, saying, listen, if they give us that look, you got to tell me that let's do it and fake the punt, right? And so I'm on the headsets with Coach, and I'm like, do we have it? Do we have it? He wouldn't say anything. So I just went ahead and called it, and they got it. I asked the coach afterwards, I said, what happened to you? What was it? He said, hell, I ain't making that call. That's on you. So that was kind of finished off a great night, and I don't remember going to bed that night. I think we stayed up all night. We partied like rock stars that night.
Speaking of, by the way, Pat McAfee, a freshman on that team, I heard you tell our friends on the Audible, Bruce Feldman and Stu Mandel, they sometimes didn't check his curfew because you knew he'd be ready the next day. He's not been shy about his partying persona. What is your favorite ridiculous Pat McAfee story from his playing days or even since?
Well, it was when he was a freshman. I think it's maybe I don't know if it was the first or second game. We had a home game. And Friday night, we would take the team to the hotel. But Thursday nights was the night everybody went out and partied. And I didn't want that to happen, wanted them to stay focused. And so supposedly he missed curfew on a Thursday night. And so he's a freshman. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I'm going to make a big example out of him, all that. And I called him in. He was young. I said, listen, I know you missed curfew. I'm going to bust your ass. But here's what's going to happen. If you don't miss any kicks, all right, during the games, I won't check curfew anymore. But if you start missing kicks or be terrible at punting, your ass is mine, right? So he said, I got you, Coach. So he was pretty good out of the whole year. I don't know if he made curfew every night or not, but he was pretty solid. I didn't have to worry about him being ready to perform.
So hate to bring up probably the low point, but 2007 Backyard Brawl. I'm a freshman at Michigan State. I'm watching this game in my dorm with a friend who's from Morgantown. Coaches often say they remember the losses more than the wins. How often do you think back to that game and anything you might have done differently? It felt like everything had to go wrong for that to happen.
Yeah, I do think about it. I don't. Thanks for bringing that up. Shit, I didn't want to even think about it. I try to forget about it, but inevitably you can't because people like you bring it up. But no, it's
sorry.
It's no, it was the worst night of my professional career by far. Nothing becomes close to it. And I know we got a couple guys hurt, and that when Pat got hurt and some other guys got hurt, but I was too conservative in our play call. Our defense was playing great. In our offense, we were stumbling around a little bit, and so I thought, we just got to keep it close to vest, not blow it. And it was just way too conservative of an attack, and then we lose the game. And I think we had a great team. I think we could have won it all. But if people said that was the reason I left, that's nuts. That was the reason that almost I didn't leave, because I didn't want to leave like that. But it was a bad night, and I try not to think about it. But you got to learn from it, right? I mean, that was however that was 20 years ago. Not quite 20, but we're still. I mean, there's lessons I learned in that game that probably have helped me, in the last 10 years too.
Do you feel like if Pat White's healthy, that you're wearing a championship ring right now?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, just because it's, he was such a dynamic player, and such a difference maker kind of thing. But I don't know if you ever know. You got to give them credit for how they played. But again, there's other opportunities too. In that game, and then other games too. The good thing we felt then is we had built our program, to that top 5, top 10 in the country kind of level in the last several years. And that part of my frustration, that it was hard. It's always hard to build there. People say that it's harder to stay at the top than get to the top. No, it ain't. It's harder to get there. And if you do it the right way, you can stay up there. So we worked our tails off to get there, and we thought we were there, and I wanted to keep us there. And so we had some frustrations with some, staff leaving and some other stuff I wanted to do for the team. And some of the things that we wanted then, now 17 years later, we have, whether it's staffing or facilities or what have you. So it's nice that we've got that stuff now.
And if there's a playoff back then, you guys still have a shot.
Yeah. We've been in the playoff 3 years in a row. 5, 6, and 7, and that's why I think it's kind of neat now. I think that people say it's diminished the bowls. The bowls are still important. I think involving bowls in the playoff, that's good. I don't know. The number's not going to stay at 12. It may go to 14, may go to 16, but I think there's certainly more of an opportunity that if you stub your toe a couple times, or at least once or whatever, probably twice in a Power 4, you still got a chance to be in the playoff and win it all.
That actually reminds me of a question I was going to ask. The playoff, the 12-team playoff, it might expand again. There's the idea out there from the Big Ten, the SEC, to give themselves 4 automatic bids potentially. The Big 12 might get 2. What do you think of that and the idea that other conferences might be guaranteed more bids than you guys in the Big 12?
I don't blame them for doing it. I don't know if it's fair to the Big 12. I think it's I think it's difference between a Power 4 and Group of 5, because I've been on both levels. Giving them 4 automatic bids, I don't know about that. Now, if they start playing 9 games, conference games, there's a little bit more of a merit from that standpoint. But I don't know if they need to overthink it. Let everybody play 9 conference games, or 8. Everybody plays 8, whatever the case may be, and then just pick the best teams. You don't trust a committee. They do it in basketball. They pick 64. Mm-hmm. We can't have an intelligent committee of people that have picked the top 12 or top 16 teams, and you give automatic bids to your conference championship winners, and then have a smart committee pick the rest of them.
Mm-hmm. Rich, go back to that 07 year. You famously, Alabama comes calling that offseason, and you gave them the stiff arm. How much of that was because of the team that you knew you had and the potential for what 2007 could be?
Oh, yeah. I think part of that was certainly that. We were better than Alabama at the time. Mm-hmm. But again, Alabama was going through transition, but we were One, we had, really good team coming back. And then a bunch of our supporters really stepped up and had made a commitment to some of the things that we needed to have in our program go after that happened, the Alabama thing. And part of my frustration the following year was the things that was promised and things that was given was not done. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, geez, we did make a commitment. We didn't go to Alabama and we stayed here and we got this and that. Well, how come I don't have that? How come we're not, have that at our disposal like it was promised? So, the supporters and the boosters really stepped up when that all happened. But I was comfortable. And I, despite what I don't know what the rumors were, I never did tell them I was going. I never did accept the job, even though it's Alabama. I told them I deserve a statue down in Tuscaloosa too, because I'm part of the reason they got them 6 national championships. Because then they went around and came back at Nick and got Nick the second time, and there he is. Had the greatest career of any college coach ever.
Maybe you can just have one of you behind Nick, like pointing, like this is what you do. This is what you do. Yeah. How close did it get? Obviously at the time there was some reporting that you had accepted the job, but how close did it get to you wearing the crimson? Yeah,
I didn't. I had talked to him. I met with him at one time, and then my agent. I don't even have an agent now, but the agent at the time, my agent, I think, had several conversations, and that's probably where the misconception or the false rumors came in, that they said supposedly he said I'd offer the job or I had accepted a job. I had never had accepted a job. So the talks, we had two. I had 2 talks, one in person, one over the phone, and I think my agent had 1 or 2, but I had never told him I was coming for sure. In fact, I had went down to Jacksonville, Florida, for a Gator Bowl press conference because we were getting ready to play in the Gator Bowl. And at that right after that press conference is when I had a phone call with several of our supporters and boosters about what I needed to stay. And by the time I flew back to West Virginia, they had already done that. And so that's when I'm like, geez, this is really neat. And so I wound up staying.
One of the reporters who was on that at the time back then was Ian Rappaport with AL.com back in the day. Now with the NFL Network.
Oh, rap sheet, yeah.
Yeah, you go to you end up taking the Michigan job the next year, and obviously things didn't go the way you wanted. You said at your press conference coming back that it was kind of a mistake maybe for you to leave the first time around. Do you regret taking the Michigan job?
That's a fair question. I think it was a mistake for me. I don't think, when you say, I guess, the way things worked out in life, and maybe it was meant to be. So but was it a mistake at the time? Sure, that's easy to say because it didn't work out. Me being with thinking of my ego or something, that had the AD that hired me, Bill Martin, who's a great guy, still been the AD my third year. After my third year, we'd have been able to stay there. In the fourth year, when they went to the Sugar Bowl with all the guys that we recruited and coached, every player that made a throw, a run, or a catch were guys we recruited, that we'd have been okay because it was getting better. But it was not getting better fast enough. We didn't win enough, to their standards, which I understand. But had I visited there, I probably wouldn't have taken the job because I had just made an assumption at the time Michigan's facilities were everything that you wanted to have and all this and that. And then I went there and it wasn't what I thought. And so I knew it was going to take some work, but we just, it didn't work out. But yeah, we had a better team in West Virginia. We had better thing. I don't have a lot of patience. I probably could have displayed more patience, and stayed at West Virginia and tried to keep getting the things I needed to have to keep the program where it was.
What were they missing when you went to Michigan? You get there and you say,
for instance, the weight room. You go in the weight room and it's like you'd expect, they're going to have a nice weight room. It was nice in size, but they didn't have any squat racks or any bench presses. Everything was machines. Like in the 1970s. You know what I mean? So it was like, Jesus. I remember telling the athletic department, they asked me what I need. I like the whole new weight room, so you had to have some of that. And I think some of that, Michigan's got a lot of positive things. They love football. They're very passionate about it. It's a great education and great history and all that. But I think sometimes when you're looked at as an outsider coming in, it takes you just a little bit longer for them to understand that, hey, Bo wasn't a Michigan man either till he got there. You know what I mean? And that's what I try to say. I wasn't a Michigan man, but give us a chance to show you what we're about. But I just, like I said, I wasn't very patient. I got a little bit upset too quickly when, I was asking for some things here in Morgantown, and I thought we should be able to get it, and we didn't, and so it happened. But I do think you have to learn from every move you make, but not dwell on it. Does that make sense? I mean, I could have sat there and dwelled on it when it didn't happen. Like, geez, I'd get mad at myself, get mad at the school, whatever. But instead, I was like, okay, I'm not done coaching. And then Arizona, got a chance to go to Arizona, and then even after went to Jack State, I love the place. I love people down in Jacksonville, Alabama. I could have stayed there the rest of my career and been very happy. But this is a different opportunity, right? I mean, this is home. And so when this came open, I'm like, okay, this is the last move. Let's make it happen here.
Since Michigan, you talk about that Arizona experience, being at Ole Miss, ULM, Jack State. What did you learn about yourself through those experiences, heading into now, obviously, coming back to West Virginia?
Well, you got to keep learning and growing, as a coach. Whatever mistakes we made or I made, let's learn from it and get better from it. I didn't really have a mentor, a lot of mentors. I mean, Tommy Bowden was the first person who really gave me a break in coaching when he hired me at Tulane. But outside of that, I really just been a head coach. I was a head coach in small colleges way back then. And so I kind of had to learn on my own and kind of earn success that way. You know what I mean? Like we don't have a lot of fluffy sayings down here. We have two: hard edge and earn success. And I think nowadays there's too many coaches that want to start on third base. They just get out of college and they want to make $250,000 a year as a position coach instead of trying to earn their way up and earn their success, so to speak. I say I didn't get the job at West Virginia this time because what we did before. I did it because we won at Jack State. If we weren't winning at Jack State, nobody would have called me. But because we were winning and did a job there. So, but at the same time, I'm a better coach now than I was a year ago, and I'll be better next year. So I think part of what I've tried to learn over the years is the same thing I want my players and my staff to do. Hey, let's just keep getting better. Let's how can we improve ourselves, improve our product?
We talked about it before we started recording, but you and I last spoke when you were at ULM. You're the offense coordinator for Terry Bowden. You guys go 4-8 that year. 4 years later, you're here. I mean, did you ever think you'd have the opportunity to be a power conference head coach again?
Everybody should do tour duty in Louisiana Monroe. And that was a 4-8. That 4-8 might have been the best coaching job we've ever done. They were 0-12 the year before, and last in every category: offense, defense, whatever. And Terry was great to work with. It was kind of unique for me because my son was a quarterback, and I signed him at Arizona. He stayed at Arizona until he graduated. Then he came there. He had 1 year left, and the people down there were great. It was hard because they were so far down, and we were hoping we gave them a little bit of hope, and then I loved coaching. In fact, I think there's maybe 6 or 7 people that were on our staff at Louisiana Monroe that's on my staff here, because when you can do more with less, or at least have to do more with less. When you come to a place like West Virginia where you don't have less, you have more, you're going to be able to have even more success. So that was a great experience for us, and it allowed me to meet some of the guys that I thought was the key to our success at Jack State, because all those guys were there with us at Jack State, and they did the same thing. They're doing the same thing here at West Virginia.
West Virginia now, it's obviously a much different place than 18 years ago for a lot of reasons. Realignment, the state of college football, and everything. How has this program changed since you were last here? What's there that wasn't there before? What can you do, or what can't you do that you could do before?
Yeah, I think the first thing that's changed is that they did a phenomenal job with our football facility. They put $50-some million into upgrading our football facility. So everything you would need from a strength conditioning standpoint, nutrition standpoint, football standpoint, it's all there. And so that's really neat. And the locker room and all that stuff's fantastic. Now, the money part has changed a little bit, but we're in a position now that with the University Rev Share that we're going to be able to compete. We may not have what Ohio State has. There might be $1 million or a couple million short of that, but we're going to be in a ballpark that we can compete with the Big 12. So that's a good thing. I think the passion for football has always been here. I think the passion for the university has always been here. That hasn't changed a little bit. Maybe what we can do is maybe bring a spark, because I think, everybody kind of wants, hey, let's recreate the past or something like that. And what I want to do is bring a program that everybody be proud of all the time. And I will say this, there's a lot of football fans, they'll sit in the stands and they may not know the X's and O's or whatever, but they can tell if you're playing hard. Mm-hmm. I think you don't have to be an experienced fan or a football person to see if a team is really playing hard. And to me, we owe it to ourselves and to our fans. We're going to play hard if nothing else. And our guys have to learn how to do that all the time in every game.
West Virginia fans, I mean, you have such the support in the state. They love the program. I was telling Chris before we got on the first game I ever went to West Virginia, I got out of the car, was offered some moonshine immediately in the media parking lot. I did not partake, but when you look at this program, your last 3 years there, you guys finished in the top 10. The 4 years after that, you finished in the top 3 or top 25, 3 of those last 4 years. Just twice since then, when you look at what are expectations for this program, what are fair expectations for West Virginia in the current state of college football?
Yeah, I think our fans, they can see what teams are doing now, coming from like Arizona State, coming from last to first in the Big 12. And I think, even though we're a small state and we don't have a lot of Division I prospects, we'll have a couple every year. We're surrounded by areas that have some. But I think they just want to be one of the top programs in the country. You want to be in the top 25 every year. You want to be in a bowl game every year. And you want to be able to compete for a championship or compete for a playoff spot. And that's fair. I mean, I don't mind saying that. That's what our expectations should be. There's a lot of work to get there. I think I didn't even realize this till last week. We got two returning starters total on the whole team.
Wow.
And then most of the backups were gone too. So they're either seniors or guys that went in the portal. But we signed 28 guys out of the portal. We'll probably sign a few more. But this is the newest roster, probably, I don't know the history of our school, but that's kind of the sign of the times, especially when the coaches change. So I'm still learning our guys. Our guys are still learning each other. I love their attitude so far. But we got a lot of work to do. But we're going to get there. We have enough support. If we do our job as coaches, which we'll do, if our players will completely buy in, which they will, we've got a chance to turn this thing to a playoff team pretty quickly. Last
question. Week 3, you guys have Pitt, the Backyard Brawl. How excited are you to get back into that?
Yeah, it's 9/13 we play them, and it's there's not a day goes by that I don't think about it. Now, we don't work on Pitt every day, but we work on Pitt more than we do anybody else. That's the biggest game on our schedule every year when we play them. So right now we're trying to evaluate our current guys, get them better and all that, but it's always in our mind.
Coach, thanks for joining the show. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I know you probably can't say it, but the old ESP chant that West Virginia fans like to say. I'm sure you guys think about that all the time.
Yeah, it's a bad 4-letter word. You know that. So,
well, Coach, thanks
but that's the worst one.
Thanks for joining the show. Milan Pushker, really one of the most underrated venues in college football. Excited to see it get rocking and tap into some magic that we've seen there, and you were responsible for a lot of that. So thank you for joining the show, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Good talking with you. Appreciate it.